So, following the revelations that there was a suspected domestic terrorist plot by a man named Christopher Hassan, who was taken into custody earlier this week after officials found out that this lieutenant that's apparently in the Coast Guard has been stockpiling weapons and planned to do a killing spree against the media and Democrats. So this is politically motivated, or would have been politically motivated, and would have been considered a terrorist attack if it had been through. Now, part of that plot, I should say part of the reason is, look, he went after the media, calling the media the enemy of the people, right? Now, that sounds familiar. Have we heard that somewhere before? A certain, president of the United States calling the media the enemy of the people? Oh, right, Donald Trump. Nonetheless, Sarah Huckabee Sanders had to go out and defend Trump and said that, oh, no. Donald Trump has never encouraged violence. He has a history, of course, not encouraging violence. In fact, he is the first person to come out and defend against that and to condemn violence. And so I want to show you that video of her talking right now.
I certainly don't think that the president at any point has done anything but condemn violence against journalists or anyone else. In fact, every single time something like this happens, the president is typically one of the first people to condemn the violence, and the media is the first people to blame the president. We should all join together and start condemning the violence, whether it's against members of the media, whether it's against Democrats, Republicans, any person in this country that is unacceptable. And that's why every time it comes up, we have been consistent and repeatedly said that we condemn violence in all forms.
Survey says that's a lie. Let me give you a couple of examples here. In 2015, Donald Trump, this is Trump himself, the guy who supposedly condemns violence every time and does not encourage violence at all, right? You heard her, doesn't encourage violence. In fact, the president's the first one to condemn violence. Okay. Well, in 2015, Trump said that a protester at one of his rallies, quote, should have been roughed up after he was punched by a Trump supporter. In 2016, Trump encouraged supporters to, quote, knock the crap out of protesters at one of his rallies and said, don't worry, I'll pay your legal fees. Don't worry about it, I'll pay your legal fees. I don't know. That kind of sounds like encouraging violence when you tell somebody to knock the crap out of someone. And then in 2018, and I talked about this story. I covered this. You guys remember Gian Fort in Montana, right? This is a guy who body slammed a reporter. Well, Trump said, "Oh, he body slammed a reporter. That's my kind of guy. That's my kind of guy. Any guy who could do a body slam. He's my kind of guy." Gee, I wonder if you get the impression that he encourages violence. And then again, of course, you talk about the media being the enemy of the people, right? Well, what do you do to an enemy of the people? Well, and some people in their deranged minds would think, well, obviously, you have to do what you have to do. Second Amendment solutions. Now, that was a phrase that was said during the campaign, I believe. So, come on, man. To say that he has never encouraged violence at his rallies, that is a plain, flat-out lie. So now, of course, social media chimed in, and I love it. Marna Grizzly says, yes, press secretary. Every day I hear Donald Trump saying that the press is the friend of the people. Great friends. Strong friends. Matthew Burrock says, he literally called journalists the enemy of the people 2 days ago and said networks which air content he doesn't like should face retribution 4 days ago. Oh, weird. Gene Bianco says, I'm sure he condemns it after he entices it every damn single day. Now, that's an important point because what the president is doing is he's gaslighting America. So now he comes out and says, "Oh, knock the crap out of him." And then Lennar says, I completely condemn violence. Yeah, after large amounts of pressure put on him by like people in the White House and his advisors and things like that. And they're like, dude, maybe you shouldn't say that. Maybe you shouldn't say knock the crap out of him. You got to come out now. I mean, look, how long did it take for President Trump to come out and condemn the Charlottesville protesters? These are the Charlottesville neo-Nazis, I should say, who ran over a counter-protester. How long did it take? No, there are good people on both sides. Great people. How long did it take him? It took him quite a long time to distance himself from that. From people who are openly doing violence. There are numerous examples. So don't tell me that he has never encouraged violence at his rallies. He always encourages violence and then lies about it afterwards. And look, I don't know who's worse, Donald Trump or the people who are of right mind that defend him at all costs. People like Sarah Huckabee Sanders. She may be one of the worst. Now, more tweets here. You Woke Now says, press secretary is a pathological liar, a 45 sycophant, and a worker of iniquity. It's painful to watch and listen to her deceptive, deceiving propaganda. She has no sunken place. I would say that she is a sunken place. Her morality has sunk to a brand new low. And look, when it comes to Trump and the rest of the people that are still around him, still on his side, there is no bottom to that barrel. There is no more that you can sink. No more lower you can sink. P. Wax says, she holds a PhD in gaslighting. Absolutely. The Moody Foodie, love that, says, how about the times he encouraged his supporters at rallies to attack protesters, as I talked about before, saying how he would pay their legal fees, saying people should be carried out on a stretcher. Is that his idea of condemning? And words are, make something important for the evangelical followers, quote, thou shalt not bear false witness. You want to call yourself a Christian, Sarah? You just bear false witness. You constantly lie for what is, I don't know, pretty close to idol worship, right? Because that's who President Trump is. He is nothing more than an idol, right? And he is deeply, deeply immoral, calls for violence, and then lies about it. He is a pathological liar, and the only reason that he became president is to help himself and his own family at the expense of the American people. So, and he, I think, will do anything he can to hold on to his power, and part of that is going after his perceived political enemies. And that's what it is. And that's what this is, going after the press. He thinks he's some sort of wannabe dictator. In reality, thankfully, there are checks and balances in the system that can put a stop to him. But as far as his followers go, people like Christopher Hassan, those people are dangerous. Maybe we ought to look into right-wing terrorism a little bit more, especially since right-wing terrorists have been killing more people in America than Islamic extremists. So maybe you ought to focus on, I know, right-wing heads explode right now. But look, I'm not calling all right-wingers terrorists. That's ridiculous, right? No, we're calling people like Mr. Hassan, or Hassan, sorry, who was stockpiling literal weapons and trying to kill people and plotting to kill people. Those people are on the right wing. You don't plot to kill Democrats in the media if you're on the left. That's ridiculous. So, look, we got to look into right-wing terrorism. That is a serious issue. And unfortunately, the right wing right now continues to not be interested in looking at it. And they continue to lie constantly. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, You know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYT Nation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.